Welcome back inside Gillette Stadium, everybody. My name is Mike Petraglia, joined as always by Patriots expert columnist for WEEI.com, Christopher Price. All right, Chris, ho-hum, another blowout win for the New England Patriots, this time 34-9 over Matthew Stafford and the Detroit Lions. The game was really never in doubt, I thought, from the time they raced out to a 14-6 lead. They scored 20 unanswered points and essentially put this game away early. I know you're writing about this on WEEI.com. The Patriots defense has to be considered right now as one of the best in the NFL. Ironic, because coming into the game, all anybody talked about was the number one defense of the Detroit Lions. Well, coming out of the game, it's obvious that the Patriots are emerging perhaps as the number one defense, the way they are shutting down premier elite quarterbacks.
Really, and you look at the last three games, you look at what they were able to do to Peyton Manning. He got his yards, but he really was beaten pretty badly. Andrew Luck was basically rendered ineffective last week in the Patriots-Indianapolis game. And now tonight, the job that they did on Stafford, they were able to get after him, they were able to harass him, they were able to do an excellent job limiting that passing game. When you look at how Golden Tate and Calvin Johnson were held in check, and Bill credited the defense across the board. He said it was excellent team defense. It's not just one guy, it's not just an ability up front to get the job done, but the guys in the back end. You look at the performance of Reeves, you look at the performance of Browner, the job that they were able to do really speaks volumes. And going forward now, you get Aaron Rodgers, you get Phillip Rivers, and you feel pretty good about where this defense is if you're a Patriots fan, even with the quarterbacks you have. I love the fact that at the start of this 6-game stretch, we were sitting here thinking, well, 3-3 would be in great shape. You feel pretty good about where you are if you finish 3-3. Well, I think at this point, you almost get greedy if you're a New England fan. And you say, well, if they go anything less than 5-1, it's got to be considered a disappointment.
Well, Aaron Rodgers, though, at Green Bay next week. Look, we're going to start. They were asked about it. I know you were in on the scrum with Darrelle Revis after the game. They're already asking, okay, great, you beat Matthew Stafford and the Lions. What about Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay?
That's the next check on the list of Super Bowl defenses. You take down you take down Peyton Manning, you take down Andrew Luck, you take down Matthew Stafford. Now it's going on the road against Green Bay, Aaron Rodgers, and that Packers passing game, which at home has been incredible. So again, that's the next challenge that this defense faces. They keep rising to the challenge. They keep playing better and better every week. It's going to be interesting to see if they can again rise to the challenge next week.
This is almost cliche, trite, if you will, but are the Patriots and their defense peaking too soon?
No, I don't think they're peaking too soon. I think that they've been able to handle it appropriately. When I say that, I mean they've been able to put the pedal down when they've needed to. They've been able to ease up when they've needed to. And it's not just the passing game. They've been able to shut down some pretty good backs as well. We haven't really seen that over the last 3 weeks. But the numbers suggest, at least, they certainly pass the eyeballs there. I'll say that. When you're talking about their run defense, it's far improved from where they were those first 4 games when they were gashed repeatedly by guys like Noshawn Moreno and Jamal Charles. It's improved over the course of the year. So across the board, again, going back to what Bill said in the post-game press conference, it's not just one guy, it's not just the secondary, it's not just the linebackers, not just the guys up front, but it's been a complete team effort to be able to get them to where they need to be defensively.
Jonas Gray will never run out of phone battery ever again. He will have 2, 3, 4, 10 extra iPhone chargers by his side. He better. After not getting a single down, not getting a single snap in a game, 7 days after setting a Patriots record with 4 rushing touchdowns, 201 yards on 37 carries, not a single snap. Message delivered by Bill?
Yeah, I think it was very clear, too. The fact that he was dressed, but he did not play a single snap, I think that was more embarrassing than anything else. They could have deactivated him. They could have had him sit up in the box somewhere and just kind of out of sight, out of mind. I wanted to send a message to him.
It's much more painful, by the way, for a player to stand on the sideline in uniform, helmet on, and wait to go in and never get in.
Exactly. And I think having spent a little time around him in the short time he's been here in Foxborough, doesn't strike me as the kind of guy who is going to let this be a problem, both when it comes to oversleeping as well as maybe sulking in a situation like this. I will say this, it didn't set up to be a great week for the running game. You're talking about Detroit, you're talking about one of the better run defenses in the league, so he wasn't going to get a whole lot of touches to begin with. But it was interesting that they even went to Brandon Bolden in the second half. That's how far they went on the depth chart before going to Jonas Gray. And I'd be willing to bet you dollars to donuts, if James White had been active, he would have gotten some reps today as well.
I don't think there's any question about that, but obviously one of the guys that did get touches, 12 carries, 78 yards, and the first time he touched the ball back in a Patriots uniform, he scored. Of course, we're talking about LeGarrette Blount, 2 touchdowns on the day.
Big day for him, too. And it wasn't just the touchdowns that were impressive, but the fact that he ran hard, he was the backup choice in the fourth quarter. Now, you're going to have situations in November and December where you're going to have to run the ball. We saw it today where you're going to need to bleed some clock in the fourth quarter. You're going to need to put together some of those 4-minute drives. You're going to be able to really move the chains and get some quality yards and not risk throwing the ball. He's going to be that guy. I think you're going to see both him and Jonas Gray work in that role as that traditional between the tackles banger who's going to be able to get those tough yards. But I do think that if the stage gets too big for the kid, we're going to see more Blunt than maybe what we would have expected a week or so ago.
I can tell you that I was in on the scrum with Jonas Gray after the game. He did speak, and as you have said many times, nothing ever happens by accident in Foxborough. He was obviously told to speak and apologize, which he did. He said, quote unquote, "It's unfortunate that I didn't get to contribute in this game. I know what happened, and I'm not going to talk about it anymore," meaning he was not going to go into the details. But Belichick and the Patriots clearly were not going to give him the ability to say that my phone died. Hey, I was late, that's on me.
It's funny, I talked to someone before the game who was pretty familiar with the situation, and they were apparently talking to the coach on Saturday, and the coach just kind of smiled and shook his head and said, "That poor SOB." Of all the weeks for this to happen to him,
right?
Because, he was able to hit such unbelievable heights last weekend. He was able to do what he did, 201 yards, Offensive Player of the Week, cover of Sports Illustrated, all that.
Right.
And then to have the phone die on you on Friday. Oh, that's got to be
happen.
That's so deflating, though. But can you imagine the level of panic he must have had when he woke up on Friday and saw what time it was and tried to, haul here as fast as he could? But right. I do think he handled it the proper way. And it was funny.
Take your medicine.
Exactly. And Rivas talked about it in the locker room afterwards. Said, "Look, I think he's handled it the proper way. I don't foresee this being a problem for him going forward." So I think we can kind of put the bow on that whole story.
The Detroit Lions, Chris, had a reputation as being one of the dirtiest teams in the NFL coming in, and they have been for several years. What we saw at the end of this game was not pretty. We saw, obviously, long snapper Danny Aiken get just crushed on a field goal that was wiped out because they called the penalty, and it was LeGarrette Blount's second touchdown of the day that ensued and followed that, and there was some trash talking in the end zone. We saw what happened at the very end of the game. There was some going after the lower extremities, the knees, the legs, the ankles, whatnot, when the kneel down was happening at the end of the game. It's just not a good look for the NFL, for the Detroit Lions.
No, and this is a team, too, to your point, that they really managed to avoid some of those stupid penalties over the course of the first half of the year. You thought that this was a team under Jim Caldwell, new head coach Jim Caldwell, that had kind of gotten things turned around from that perspective. At the end of the game, that was distressing, I think, on a lot of levels, to see
Classics.
the cheap shots. Exactly, to see the cheap shots, to see them doing what they did in that circumstance. Come on, that's just cheap, and it's sad to see from a team that's actually come a long way over the last 12 months when it comes to stuff like that.
All right, on to a better subject. Next week in Green Bay, obviously, will be one of the greatest games in regular season recent memory for the New England Patriots as they legitimately go on the road for what could be a Super Bowl preview, taking on Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers. But for today, the Patriots took care of business. Their 7th straight win, 9-2, which means, Chris, 14 straight winning seasons. That is really, truly an unbelievable mark in the NFL.
I think the record is 19.
20 actually
by
the Cowboys.
Exactly, by the Cowboys. I think it was 66-85, if I remember correctly.
Correct.
That's a ridiculous run of success. The level of consistency is really something to be appreciated in this era of parity, in this era of free agency and the salary cap and everything designed to bring everyone back to the middle. I think the work that the Patriots have done, and look, let's be honest, a lot of that comes back to number 12 as well as the quarterback. I don't know if they have that run of success if he's not here, but at the same time, it should be appreciated.
All right, the Patriots take care of business, take care of the Lions. 34-9 here inside Gillette Stadium on Sunday afternoon. Christopher Price, I'm Mike Petraglia, WEEI.com.